Converting fractions, decimals and percentages into each other and being familiar with the equivalences of each one is what I consider to be the building blocks of maths. Being able to do this is so useful in lots of different types of questions, including probability, where you have to give your answer as a fraction, a decimal or a percentage. In this video, I'm going to show you how to convert fractions, decimals and percentages into each other, which will make your level 2 functional skills maths or GCSE maths much easier. Okay, so here we've got a table. It's showing some common percentages, fractions, decimals and all the relevant equivalents. So here we've got fraction of 1/10, which is the same as 0.1 and 10%, 1/5, same as 0.2 and 20%, and so on and so on. So all of these you'd be expected to know at level 2 functional skills without having to work them out. But essentially you can apply the method for converting fractions into decimals and percentages with any particular fraction, even if it's 300 over 2,949. So the first thing you do is to divide the top number by the bottom number. So that's how you can find out what the decimal value of a fraction is. Then once you've got the decimal, multiply it by 100 to find out what the percentage is. And then to go back from a percentage to a decimal, you're dividing by 100. So you're sort of just undoing what you did to get there. So it's divide your top number by the bottom of your fraction. That gives you the decimal. And then times by 100 to get to the percentage. Now, one thing I always like to point out with fractions, how you can figure out what the decimal value of a fraction is if you were typing out 1 divided by 10 on your computer keyboard, there's no divide symbol on your keyboard. So what you would do is you would use a / like we've done here. And that's just the fraction, isn't it? So 1 divided by 10 equals 0.1. That's just a little tip I always like to point out to people. So with this method in mind, let's have a little look at this particular table here. So we do have various fractions. We're just going to work out what the decimals and percentages equivalents of these are. We've got 21 divided by 120 gives us a decimal of 0.175, times that by 100 gives us 17.5%. Do the same with the 18 divided by 24, gives us 0.75, times that by 100 gives us 75%. Again, we can do that with the 6 divided by 25, gives us 0.24, times that by 100 gives us 24%. And the final one, 10 divided by 125 gives us 0.08, times that by 100 gives us 8%. It's as easy as that to convert them. So it's your top number divided by the bottom, which will give you the decimal value, times it by 100 to turn it into a percentage. So with this next question, it's actually a mock exam question from a non-calculator paper from City and Guilds. And this one, as you can see, is a multiple choice. Now, what you would need to do with this one is to basically just identify which one is going from largest to smallest. And having the familiarity of fractions, decimals, percentages, how you could certainly see what a decimal is as a percentage, for example, you'd be able to identify straight away which one here is going to be the correct answer, which is D. So we can see 0.05 is a very, very small number, and it's certainly smaller than 0.15. 1/5, like I mentioned earlier, you'd be expected to know that that is 0.2 as a decimal. And the 17 over 50, we don't really need to worry about that one, to be honest. You should be able to answer this question with just that knowledge. I mean, even just knowing that 0.05 is your smallest, should be able to answer that question. Now, you can convert the fractions into a decimal. We will sort of cover how we can do that right now. So if we're looking at the 17 out of 50, what you can do to with that one is write it as a percentage but in fraction form. So if you think of a percentage, it's essentially a fraction that's out of 100. So we need to get this fraction to be out of 100, and we can do that if we just double both numbers. So obviously we've got 50 at the bottom. If we times that by 2, we've got 100, and we can do the same with the top number. So that would be 34% written in fraction form. Now with a percentage, If you're doing it without a calculator, a quick and easy way of turning a percentage into a decimal is to just add 0 point onto the front of it. And you've got the decimal there, so we can get rid of the percentage sign there. So 0.34 is the 17/50 as a decimal. So one thing I've not covered is how to convert percentages and decimals into fractions. We've done it from fractions into decimals and percentages, and then from percentages back to decimals, but we've not done percentages and decimals into fractions. So as I've already mentioned, we need to consider what a percentage symbol is. It's a fraction out of 100. So we have already touched on this a little bit. So if we're looking at 24% as a fraction, we can start off with 24 out of 100 as our starting fraction. Now, if you are familiar with simplifying fractions, that's what we need to do next. We need to simplify this fraction down and show it in its most basic form. If you're unsure of how to do that, there is a video link at the top of the screen now. So if you want to watch the simplifying fractions video, then do check that one out. But essentially what we're going to do here is half both of those. So we've simplified it a little bit. And we're going to half those again, which will give us 6 out of 25. So that's as far as we can go with simplifying this particular fraction. So 24% as a fraction is 6 out of 25. What about 0.35 as a fraction? So we've kind of already covered this a little bit. I spoke about how we can turn a percentage into a decimal by just adding 0 point on the front. Here we can just take off the 0 point and we've got it as a percentage. And then you can just follow that same method as we've done above. So 35 out of 100. We can use our 2, 3, 5 and 7 method to simplify the fraction down. We can divide that one by 5 and that would bring us down to 7 out of 20. The only thing 7 can be divided by is itself, and we can't do that here because 20 can't be divided by 7. So as a fraction, 0.35 is 7 out of 20. Okay, so just to finish up on then, we've got 2 exam questions. So these are from mock exams from City and Guilds. We've got a calculated question and we've got a non-calculated question. So have a go at these. Let me know if you got them right in the comments. And if you've got any questions, then do by all means ask. But let's dive in and work these ones out. So the one with a calculator. What is 3 out of 87 as a decimal? So remember the fractions to decimals method, it's your top divided by the bottom. So 3 divided by 87 gives us 0.0344827. Okay, so we need to round that to 3 decimal places. So we need to be looking at decimal place 1, 2 and 3. So we're looking at the 0.34, and basically the rounding is dependent on the next decimal place, so that 4th one. If it's less than 5, then the 3rd decimal place will stay as it is. If it's 5 or more, we'd round it up to 0.35. So obviously that one's a 4, so we're just going to leave it as 0.034. But 0.034 as our answer for that question. Okay, so the next one then, it's a non-calculator question. 52% as a fraction in its lowest terms. So in its simplest form, let's do it as 52 out of 100 to start off with as a fraction. We could halve that one, and I'm not in the right working out bit, but it's fine. 26 out of 50, and we can halve that one again to 13 out of 25. Now with this one, we need to look at it. Can we divide 13 by 2? No. Can we divide 13 by 3? No. Can we do it by 5? No. And can we do it by 7? No. So in terms of the fraction here, in its simplest form, we're looking at 13 out of 25. So that's the end of this session. Do give the video a like if you found it to be useful, and do consider subscribing if you need to learn more maths. Be level 2 maths functional skills.